Welcome back to Life After the Party podcast, a celebration in sobriety.
Today we have a special edition. We are talking with an anonymous member of a 12-step fellowship. For today, we're going to call him Guitar Man. How are we doing, Guitar Man?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Good.
Man.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. Yeah. So when we say Guitar Man, it's because he's an accomplished guitar player and a studio musician. I don't know if you're a studio musician, are you? I mean, you're definitely you're making a go of it.
Yeah, we can use all the jargon we want, make it sound legit.
Well, there you go. There you go. Make it sound legit. But I mean, it is awesome. And like we were talking earlier, and it's really exciting to be talking to you because, first and foremost, because you're doing it. You're doing the dream. You know what I mean? And that's pretty awesome. But the fact that you're doing the dream and you got past all of these problems that that we all have that drag us down, no matter what your drug of choice might be. The fact that, and that's what Life After the Party is all about, is when you get past that and the joy that you have in your life, and you think, where was this when I had to have that alcohol, or I had to have those drugs, or I had to have whatever? And so that's why it's so great that you're on here, and we're really happy to have you. And so I guess we'll just start by letting you take over. Just go and I mean,
this is our first time doing a web one, so we'll see how it goes, and we won't know how this works out until the finished product. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah. So why don't you tell your story?
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, whatever parts you want to tell, however you want to do it.
I think, I was thinking about this earlier, and just the title of your podcast here is something that I didn't even know really existed. There is life after the party. Things can move on. I think when I was out there doing all this stuff, I didn't really realize what living life really was. I was I grew up, I think a lot of addicts and alcoholics have a similar feeling growing up, that they are othered, or, like a black sheep, different in some way, terminally unique. But,
absolutely.
I always had that feeling, and I just felt like there was something missing, this hole deep down inside. And, I had a couple of unique things. I was born dying, so I think there was this tendency of my family to kind of set me up on a pedestal as this baby that survived, and also hold me to a certain standard. And little did I know that would set up selfishness and the ability to lie, which go hand in hand with addiction and alcoholism.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I remember my first drink, man, and you guys probably could guess where it might have been, but I was in a friend's basement, and it was a Bud Light through a beer bong. And I remember the second that liquid went down my throat, my thought was, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. This is the feeling that I want. And I had a mental obsession for substances right from the get-go, right from then.
Wow. So did you like the taste of it? I mean, just because I never liked the taste of beer when I first drank it, but did you like the taste right off the rip, or it was just you knew that was something that you thought that you needed?
I think it was this sense of ease and comfort that I got,
because it was a beer bong, so it went fast.
Yeah. And when I drank, I could do and be all the things that I wasn't able to do and be when I was sober. It allowed me to open up and talk to people and not feel awkward. It allowed me to feel normal in my own skin. I felt okay, which is something that I'm not sure that I ever really felt for whatever reason.
Well, and I think that a lot of people do that. I mean, and self-evaluation, because like I told you, it's been 15 years. So I'm going back to this stuff, thinking about how, back then. And I do think, and I never thought, because I was always pretty outgoing, I never thought that I was doing it because I needed to fit in, but I needed to fit in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, was, man, all my heroes were drug addicts and alcoholics, man. I grew up listening to, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, George Jones, and all those guys had rhinestone suits and big fancy cars. I was like, I want to be like them.
Like that, yeah.
So
and then the possum was known for not showing up.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, man, and I followed that. I followed that pretty well. Yeah, I always showed up. I might have been a few hours late, but I always showed up.
I mean, honestly, that. I think there's a lot of that I can't speak for anyone else, but hearing you say that about your heroes, and even it was like a rite of passage, especially like where we grew up too. It was like, do you get that? It seemed like it was a rite of passage
idea, man.
Yeah.
That's you work hard, you play hard, and
right.
I as far as I know, I'm the only addict alcoholic in my family, but a lot of my family were weekend warriors. It's you hang out during the week, you're normal, and then hey, let it loose. You got some days off, and I think some of seeing that too, kind of. I never realized that they stopped. But I saw that, and I saw that it made them feel different. So I think that was part of it. And then not just the alcohol, but after that, I just wanted to do anything to make myself feel different. And I'm blessed that there's life after the party. That I did survive it. I'm talking
amen for sure.
Pharmaceutical, amphetamines, cocaine. All the other stuff, I didn't like it as much as the alcohol, amphetamines, cocaine, my three main things. And I did them all day, every day. I made rules for myself. I can't do this 3 days in a row. Broke that every single time. I'm not going to drink on Sundays. Broke that one every time. And, I had landed myself in some mental hospitals. I had hurt a lot of people. I ended up doing things that I said I'd never do. I stole money from my parents to get what I wanted. I was heading down a long road of selfishness, self-centeredness, and all I wanted to do was make me feel the way that I needed to feel. And I remember I would wake up, in the morning, morning meaning bright and early at the time of 2:15 p.m. and I'd say I'm not going to drink today.
The crack of 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I did that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to drink today, and then I'd roll over. There'd be a warm half a beer on the nightstand, and I'd start all over again. Hair of
the dog, right?
Well, yeah. At some point, that became a necessity. If you're gonna, if you're physically dependent on it, you have to drink it. And I think I think that's part of this whole idea that people who aren't like us don't really understand is that, it's not a willpower thing. I don't have the choice whether I drink or not. I'm a guy who's going to drink every single time.
Right.
And I didn't. Well, I thought it was willpower.
Yeah. And once you get to like where you are right now, and you get past that, the hardest thing, and I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I mean, I've been around family members, and they're like, because I can remember, because I had, there's history in my family, so there is a history of alcoholism in my family, right? And I remember asking my uncle, I was like, I mean, can you just have a beer? Because at the time, it's like I moved back around my hometown, and I was single. I was having parties, and I mean, I didn't think I had a problem at all. And I can remember my mom had my uncle call me, and he's like, "I hate to have to do this, but can you have a drink and walk away from it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, what about whiskey?" Which was my preferred. Then I'm like, "Well, now we're talking about something different." I was like, because that's what I want, And so, and then once I got past it, and I felt so much better, like you said, that I saw that there was life after the party. It was still hard for people to understand, and it went full circle of me asking my uncle if he could do that. And he had told me a story, and he's long past now, but he had told me a story that it was Christmas one time, and it's apropos that it's Christmas right now. But he said that one of the kids brought in like a case of beer, a 12-pack or something like that, because it was Christmas, right? And that's the spirited time. And so he said, they were like, "Can't you just have one?" And he did. And then he said one led to another. And then the next thing you know, he's buying a case himself, and he had to start all over again. He had been sober for years and years and years because, like you said, there's no option, right? Like there's no option. We can't go, "I'll just have one. That'll be fine." Can't do that. So I'm just kind of reiterating what you were saying. Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and the hard part about that too is that we've changed the chemical makeup of our minds and bodies, so it's not like you get away from it, and when you start again, you're starting at the beginning. You pick it up right where you left off, which is a lesson I had to learn many times, and I had tried a lot of different things to quit, but the only thing that has worked for me and made me feel okay without substances is, working in a 12-step program. And that's really what I attribute my life to today is working through that and having a spiritual life.
Right.
That's amazing that you have a program you still work. And I'm sure you've worked that for a long time, haven't you? Probably since you started your journey.
Yeah, well, I'm still kind of early on in terms of time, but yeah. I was going to places where sober people go for about 6 months and not doing any of the program part of it, and I was miserable, helpless, hopeless, the same I always felt when I didn't have what I needed. And I went back out and tore my life down lower in 2 weeks than I had in the last 15 years. And,
wow.
It was just time. It was either alienate everyone that I loved, drag them down with me while I'm dying, or try to find a way to recover from this. And, I guess one of the main points I want to, power home, while I'm on here with you guys is that recovery is possible, and anyone listening to this who wants to recover can, and you don't need 100%. Much to start.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
Well, you just have to start. You have to make you have to take that step. That's that's a huge step. But you know what? The irony of it is when you say you work a 12-step program and faith, right? So faith is all about stepping out in faith, right? Stepping out of that comfort zone and saying, I'm going to take this leap, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, like I say, it's kind of apropos that they go hand in hand. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. And for me, the best motivator for faith was misery, and feeling like I was at the end of my rope, I got to a point where, I was raised religious and a very strong Christian family. And, there was a point where I had anger towards religion. I had anger towards what I thought God was. And, it kept me away from really even wanting to do anything spiritual at all. And really, I was just in pain. I was just in pain, and I was blaming it on whatever I could.
You look for someone to blame.
Yeah.
You look for someone to blame because, it couldn't be you, right? It couldn't be us. It's got to be there. And I get it 100%. And there are still things that where you, and as my faith has grown, I don't, but there's been times where I don't understand things and I'm like, why would God do this? You know what I mean? Like, why? So, I think we're all fallen. We're human beings. So we're always going to second guess things like that. You know what I mean? And I think that that's just human nature. And when you have personalities like we do, then it's intensified. You're like, wait a second. You know what I mean? So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I think what's also cool about this, a 12-step program has allowed me to actually seek that for myself. Where as I was growing up, I was being told what it was,
right.
not experiencing what it was. And
exactly.
The blessing of getting as low as we get is that we get to have that, There's so many people who never...
Yeah.
There's so many people who never get to feel God. They just go read about him.
It's and I'm not trivializing it at all, but it's like being born again.
Yeah,
think about
100%.
It is. There's no second guessing that at all. You are born again.
Right. So, it's like a whole new life, and and I love how you said that because you get to experience that. You get to experience it, like really experience it, feel it deep, and that's awesome. And that's
Oh yeah, man!
That could be almost like that beer bong, that feeling, that great feeling that you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I want, and then you feel that with faith, and you go, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
this is probably what I've always wanted, but I didn't know it because I felt like I was being pigeonholed into, well, this is how it has to be. There's a book that has rules in it. You do those rules. It's like Henry wants to be a dentist. It's like, wait, no, I need to figure this out myself. Right. So I love that.
Do something else in my life, right? And I love how that you say that you're not afraid to say that you're working a program, because now we got two guys on here that I believe we talked about this before, that our sobriety date's not too far apart from each other. And we actually got sober two different ways. Because I did work a program, and I had a lot of stuff on my mind at that point in time too. And I got away from that program, not saying that it didn't work for me. I still remember everything of it. But I ended up going in a different direction from that program. Like, I still talk to guys from there. I still have a sponsor. He works where I work, so we talk all the time. And he's trying to get me back into the rooms, and I really want to. It's hard for my schedule, though, because it conflicts. Like, my schedule works around the calendar dates, so it's really weird to get a day off where I can do it. But I ended up going the science way, which is Suboxone, and that's a stereotype too. It's a stigma on its own creation, but and I used to abuse it too, I may add, and I'm not afraid of saying that either, because that was one of the ways I got high. But when I went to this clinic, I don't know if I should say their name or not, probably not right now.
But you have a counselor.
Yeah, I have a counselor too. That's the great thing about it. They give you a counselor. They take your vitals, everything. They listen to you, and they get you where you need to be. So I've been on that drive for over a year now, and I'm in the same place you are too. Like, I'm in that like awakening phase that we're like, I'm a whole different person.
Well, and I think that, I mean, the two, they coincide.
Absolutely.
Because,
yes.
I mean, you're getting help.
Yeah.
And it's, first off, you're talking to someone,
absolutely,
which is what a 12-step program is. You know, you're telling your story. You're just going through the steps. It's just that you're doing it with the therapist. You're doing it, and so I don't think that.
No, it's not really different.
I think that programs like that help.
Yeah,
in so many ways, and so
because you get somebody that. Oh, go ahead, buddy.
There's the thing is there's a medical side to addiction and alcoholism, and people who go to places where sober people go, 12-step programs, are not doctors, right? I always tell the guys that I work with. I always tell the guys that I work with, you know, hey man, I'm not a doctor. I'm just another drunk. You know, if you're
that's what we say all the time.
Exactly.
We say that on here. It's like, look, there's no medical background here at all, but we're just people that have open arms and that care. You know what I mean? Sure. Because we've been through it, and we want to see. We love to see people that get on the other side of it as well. Right. So it's a victory for everybody, for them as much as it is for us. You know, I mean, like it really we love that. So please, keep going. Sorry.
The other thing is that you know, step programs, and some are more available to more people, and some are more available in certain areas. You know, so
right.
I'm somebody with a dual problem of addiction and alcoholism, right?
Yes.
And there are way more places I can go for my alcoholism where I live than for my drug addiction.
Right.
Right.
So
I'm glad you're saying something about that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, especially in a smaller area, sometimes it's harder to find those places. It's harder to get to those places, especially if you're deep in it and if you're not working or you're spending all your money on your habit. I mean, how are you going to get to these places? And I guess, you know, if somebody's watching this that wants that help and doesn't feel like they're able to get there, you know, there are numbers that you can call to central offices all over the world. And they can kind of point you in the right direction. It's a scary thing. Nobody really enjoys that first time going to something like that. But I can say that because I walked into one of those rooms scared, lonely, hopeless, suicidal, and I stuck around for a little bit, and I did what those people who weren't feeling the way I was were doing. I get to live a happy and free life, and I'm not shackled to alcohol or drugs. And I very much was, you know, and there is hope out there, and it's not this big scary thing. You know, it's a lot easier than dying from drug addiction and alcoholism.
Right. You just have to take that step.
That was beautifully said.
Yeah, I really love that. And you know, I mean, if you think, like, it's such a deep thing to think about, and we all know that, you know, it doesn't matter who tells you need to stop doing alcohol or doing drugs. It doesn't matter, like, I mean, you know, I go to the rock bottom thing, but anyone can tell you, oh, you know, what about this? What about that? What about your family? What about your friends? That none of that matters until you're ready to go. You know what? Like you said, I'm gonna walk into a room where I'm nervous to go into, and I'm gonna get help. And that's huge. I mean, that's one. I mean, it's awesome, man. Like, I love that. I really do love that. And I think that there are so many, and there's people, you know, I mean, once we started doing this, you start finding out, and we talk a lot about stigma, but we start finding out there's so many different people, so many walks of life that, like, I got phone calls from people, and they're like, I'm living in a recovery like house, like, and I'm like, I had no idea that you even had any kind of a drinking problem at all. And we talked about this before. It seems like we kind of flock together, like like birds of a feather flock together. You're like, I think maybe that we've got something in common that we that we don't talk about, but and that was one that I didn't see. But then there's others that are in active addiction, and people say things like about help, and I mean that's where we say we're not doctors, but just taking that step, and what you just said was profound, man. That's what it's huge. It's huge, and I think that what this is all about, and you just reiterated it, is helping maybe that one person to take that step. And that
exactly.
I mean, and I loved how you said. I mean, I loved it that you said it's better than dying. It's so simple, but it's really powerful, man. I love that. It really is. Like you don't think of it that deeply, but it is like you do in your. I mean, we're deep folks, so we sit in and I mean, you write music, so that's but right. You sit in that dark corner and you go, and tears flow down, and you go, why did this happen? Why this? And I remember this, or feelings like this, and the way that you just stated that was perfect. And now I know why you write music, because it was awesome. Like, I love that. So sorry, I got off on a tangent there, but
were amazing.
No, it wasn't me, guys. This is anything that I say is because I'm living a spiritual life, and I believe it's my duty as someone who has recovered from this to try and help someone who hasn't. And
right.
I just try to, I pray that my what I choose to call God sometimes gives me the words that I need to say. And, it's, to me, the hardest part was just getting to that point.
Well, absolutely.
And
you got to give it all away. You got to just come out and admit that you have a problem, and then seek the help. Clean house, accept God, and the rest will come, and help others.
Yeah. Another important part too is that the God thing scares people away from 12-step programs a lot. Yeah, it's like one of the biggest things that makes somebody turn around and go out the room. But nobody's telling you what to believe or how to believe, and you don't even have to believe. I mean, there are many agnostic and atheistic members of 12-step programs all over the world, and it still works for them. Yep. But the idea is about being willing to believe that something that isn't you can get you sober. And
right.
I don't think I even knew what sobriety was. Like, to me, that was just not. Yeah, to me, that was just not drinking, not snorting, not popping. But and that's what I originally went to those rooms to learn how to do, was to not do that stuff, but
just to stop. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I got so much more.
Yeah. Because it's a spiritual feeling in there. I mean, even if you're if you're agnostic, there's a spiritual feeling, because I mean, like any religion, and I'm putting air quotes there, but one thing that, I mean, I don't know, I'm not, I'm not a theologian, but most, it's worship together, right? I mean, it's a group of folks that, and I'm putting it in very layman terms here, but it's a group of folks that are like-minded, that want to come together for a spiritual reason, right? So no matter how you look at that, what plane you look at that, that's the group mentality of pulling people together that need that help. And I mean, I'm just kind of associating it with a 12-step program, because, and I know I actually talked to someone recently that loved everything about 12-step program but one thing.
Yep.
And this person didn't even have to tell me what that one thing was, but I knew it was the faith part, right? And this person said, but you don't have to, like, because it's been a long time, but there's like a shift now that in 12-step programs that it's not one all being, all seeing. You know what I'm saying? Like God, that you have to, like you were saying, like agnostic. And, yeah. So
I mean, there's there are millions and millions of members of 12-step programs, and there are probably just that many different concepts of what a God or higher power, whatever you want to call it, is. And really, it's. I mean, I know people who study the Tao. I know people who study Buddhism. I know people who made up their own. That's how I got started. I started with a guy that was helping me, and he brought up the God thing, and I was like, nah, man, tried that, don't want it. And he did this. Well, he did two things that were very profound for me. He did this exercise, and if people listening want to do it, they can, where you close your eyes, you think back through your life, and you find that time when you were truly happy and free. It took me a minute, but all of a sudden I was there. I was in the backyard running around, not a care in the world, 8 years old, Everything was great, and I felt that for the first time since then. And he said, sit there for a minute, really feel it. And then when I opened my eyes, he said, hey, Cody, you can feel like that again. You can feel like that again. And I wanted that bad, because I had forgotten what it was like to truly be happy, to truly be free.
Right.
And then the second thing was, because I was a little distant from an idea of spirituality at the time, he said, hey, man, why don't you just write down on a piece of paper what you would want God to be if he did exist? And that allowed me to build this tiny box that this great concept that's so far beyond my understanding then and now a piece of it could fit into. And sometimes I believe in different things, but I will tell you that nothing has made me okay like what I'm doing now. And to me that's evidence of some form of the divine. And but I can understand other views on it, but life just doesn't have to be that way. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Oh, no, you're fine. I think my video is kind of like lagging, but to say something what you were just talking about, when I was in a bigger rehab, we had to go through the first like 5 or 6 steps, I think it was, and I couldn't get past the God part. Like they wanted us to keep moving on, like every day to get a little bit better, and I made that a problem, but like I couldn't get past the God thing. Like at that point in my life, I was like, I don't understand. Like, what do you want me to do? I can't just say. I mean, I can always say, like, I believe, but do I really believe? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to do it that route.
Yeah, like, are you getting better if you're not? If you're trying to fool yourself, then
you're not fooling anybody.
Well,
and then one of my counselors was like, well, we had the same situation with another guy who he said, just pick something, pick anything, and he picked a fire extinguisher. And he told me he said he picked that out, and he prayed to that every single day. He did get through it, and he ended up creating his own rehab, like getting a place. And in that rehab, he had like 20 fire extinguishers in it, because that's what reminded him of God. So it was like, it worked for him. So I mean, it's.
So he was I mean, like he was associating that fire
God, and he said you could pick a tree, you could pick whatever. But I wanted to actually get into the whole God thing, you know what I mean? Because that's where you get it at. Like, that's where I think, I should be at, because I was so severe at the time. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you give it all to whatever you believe in, what miracles can actually happen for you.
Well, and I think, I mean, I would never deny that I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, I have that, and there was, I mean, throughout life, I think that growing up, I mean, I can remember I was sent to church, and there was a base there was a foundation. I remember things from that time. But as time went on, and then, I got married and went through different denominations, right? So went to this church, and I'm like, so my thing is I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. There was never, there wasn't and I'm not harping, but when Jesus put it all together and the disciples were all following, right? And I'm not there. He didn't say, well, you be Catholic and you be this, and that wasn't how it was. And so that's kind of my take on it, is like, I have a relationship, and that relationship, like, I'll tell you, when I started talking to Ty, and I didn't know him, we kind of hit on that I kind of messaged him and just said I was proud of him, because, like you, I'm proud of you. It's just, it's amazing for me, and I'm a little bit older. We'll just say a little, anyway. But I love to see that. I love to see folks that. And your story is so great. Like, I love it. I internalize that. Like, it makes me feel heartstrings, the whole. It's to say it like the young folks say it. I'm feeling all the feels.
Right.
No, and it does. I mean, and I guess maybe because I'm getting older too, I'm more emotional. But
I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah, I love that, and
to watch the light come back in somebody's eyes, to see that happen, and to watch somebody who's gone in the darkness, and then that moment where they start looking you in the eye, they start smiling a little more, and you can see their spirit really come back. I'm addicted to that now.
Well, I think we do. We find different addictions. I mean, it could be chocolate, it could be whatever, But that's a great thing to be addicted to, for real.
That's amazing.
And it reminds me of my father. My father died when I was in my 20s, and he had pancreatic cancer. So I came home. I was living in Columbus, and I came home. And I was drinking with all his buddies, like from the mine, right? I just wanted to hear the stories. Like, that's how I was getting through it. And again, I didn't think I had a problem. And my family would say my dad beat the curse because he wasn't an alcoholic, right? But I'm telling this, I've never even told Ty this, but I came home and my dad couldn't even make it up the stairs anymore. He was like in a bed in the downstairs, and he was like, hey, come and sit and talk to me for a second. And you're talking about that light. And he said, he's like, your mother doesn't need you on top of what's going on with me, to be out there doing all this stuff. And I said, I'm talking to your friends, like and again, I wasn't thinking that I had any kind of an issue. But he said something that rings so true to me. He goes, my brother, I looked into his eyes and they were black. Mm-hmm. And he said, it didn't look like my brother anymore. And he's like, and I don't want to see you like that. I just don't want to see you like that. And that's a rough one, but and not thinking that I had an issue, I was like, well, I won't be that way. But I think about it now, and I think about what you just said, man. And that's that light.
Yeah.
When you see that light, and I'm getting a little fun. But it's and I love that. And I mean, man, I tell you what, I love to learn from people. Yeah. Like, I learned from him, and now I'm learning from you, and I don't know. I mean, it's just it's my grown up Mr. Rogers neighborhood, and that's my last name. But I love all these like field trips that I get to do and talk to people like you, and I love how deep that is, man. I really do, and that brought something out of me. Like, I haven't even I don't know. I haven't said that, and I haven't thought about that in but
years.
Yeah,
You know, I truly believe that we're here to connect with each other when we're able to do that, amazing things can happen. And that's kind of what is a big part of these 12-step fellowships is, you know, connecting to these people who have the same problem and they have a solution for you, you know. And that was a beautiful story. I thank you for sharing that. And
well, I thank you for sharing everything too, man. I mean,
it's just amazing what we get to do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and to feel like you have a responsibility, not putting that on you, but just to feel it down deep. Like, wait a second. It's so much better to be on this side.
Right.
I have a responsibility to tell people. Like before I ever talked to him, I just put stuff on social media, just things about sober life, you know, and I just put it out there because I would see something and go, that's profound and that needs to be said. People need to see that because it's, again, and like I harp on it, but it's just true. We could be the only light of hope. Each one of us, everyone that we talk to, but the three people that are talking right now, we could be one person's only light of hope, you know? Absolutely. And I think that you have, I mean, like, to bring it back to the guitar man, if I had a lighter right now, I'd put it up in the air because that's an encore, man. Like that's really great. And
I think,
that's awesome. It really is.
If you have anything else you want to talk about or close this up, man, I guess how time goes.
Just closing thoughts, as a reporter might say, I guess. You know, I know when you're deep in active addiction or alcoholism, it feels very hopeless, very helpless, very lonely, and that there's nothing that can be done. You might feel like the world would be a better place if you just weren't here, and I'm here to tell you that that's not true, and that you can be happy and free and recover in this life. You know, I came into the rooms, you know, a dead man walking, and I learned how to live life. And today I can contribute to life. You know, I've become all these things that I was never supposed to be. I'm allowed to be a good son, a good brother, a good friend, a good partner, all these things that I never was before. And I got to have some amazing experiences, some hard experiences. But the fact of the matter is that there was a power that showed up in my life and saved it from an alcoholic or drug addicting life. And that can happen for anybody, you know, and it can happen for you. Whoever is watching this, it can happen for you. If you want this, you know, there's just millions of people all over the world that would do anything to help you. And you know, I keep you guys and all your listeners in my prayers, and I just really thank you guys for letting me be here. And you know, next time I'm down that way, we should all get together and do something. We'll go Absolutely. Out for a soda water.
Right.
There you go, man.
We'll go and eat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's what you were just saying reminds me of it. And you know, it's a holiday season where it's Christmas time, you know, and it always reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Scrooged. With Bill Murray, Bill Murray. And so at the end, he's like, you can do it. It's right there. Just grab it. And it's profound because that's kind of what you're doing. It's like, it's there. Just take it. Absolutely. You can do it, you know? And that's what I felt like when you were just saying that. Right, and I love that. I mean, I love that. And it's a really great way to send this all off during this holiday season, because I mean, I think that I actually think that be it people that are addicted or people in general, people are looking for that. You know what I mean? They're looking for that that hand that's out there, and you saying that there's millions and millions of people, because there are, and sometimes people don't realize that. And that's a sad state of affairs. And I think that as human beings, we all have to get better at that. You know what I mean? I think we have to get better at that.
I agree.
And
that's huge.
I think that there's 3 people that are on these screens right now that have a pretty good start at that, at least, you know. I don't know.
I think we do.
I'm really proud of you, and I really love this whole thing.
Yeah, dude, man.
And I'm so glad you came on. Honestly,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
yeah.
And, this was a great experience, guys. Thank you.
Well, no, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
And I've sometimes I talk too much, and I try not to.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good.
But it was really great. It really was.
I think we kept in the parameters here, and
yeah,
I might do a little bit of editing, getting us this all together. But the next time we get on here, it should be better. It should flow a lot better. But I think this was great.
Yeah,
the message was spot on. Everything. I appreciate you coming on here.
And if you come down this way, maybe we could do like an unplugged version of this. do something like where we're sitting somewhere and then like a little, I don't know,
that'd be
a little
nice.
music. Like a little music to play us out.
Get creative.
I don't know, but you know what? I mean, I think that we all have. There's talents that are